Welcome to Market Your Science, the podcast that dives into the world of life sciences marketing. Join me, Jane Antique, and Martina Neville as we unravel the mysteries and conquer the challenges faced by life sciences companies looking to communicate their research. Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Market Your Science, Season 2. We have a very distinguished guest with us today. I love her. Martina loves her. I think we all love her for her hot takes on biotech recruitment. I'd like to introduce you to her. Please give us a warm welcome to Amber Penrose. Hi, Amber.
Hi. Hello. Hello, Jane.
Before we go into it, give us a short introduction about you and what you're about, because it would be great. I mean, I think your reputation precedes you, but that's just me. But no, I think everybody should also hear it, just in case.
Yeah, so hello, I am Amber. I think it's weird, right, that we all start these intros, though, with our job. So I'm going to tell you a bit about what I like beyond work first. So I'm a crazy cat woman, got 2 cats. I'm hoping to get another. I'm just working on convincing my partner, so wish me luck with that. I love good food. I love barbecues. I love seeing my friends. I love to dance. I love to read. I love just good food, basically, is the moral of that story. And I, 6 months ago, started my own recruitment agency, and we are focused solely on startups for biotech and life sciences. The reason behind that is because during the pandemic, obviously, we had this huge VC sugar high, which created a ton of amazing opportunities for founder-led biotechs and people that had just completed their PhDs to start their own businesses. And of course, they are the most intellectually curious, fascinating humans I've ever been blessed enough to meet. But it's as if academia is setting us up for failure, and it teaches us nothing about how to actually build a successful biotech, and more importantly, how to create a good recruitment process. So that's where Moxee comes along. And that was kind of the passion project behind why I wanted to build a startup agency specifically.
Wait, without being rude, that's because academia doesn't care.
There you go.
Am I allowed to say that?
Oh, yeah, you are.
Academia only cares if you're going to stay in academia. Beyond that, just forget it. Yeah. Is that going to be cut out?
No, it's not. Why? Because why should we cut it out?
It's the truth.
Yeah. And some truths are just a level of acceptance, right? And if you can't accept it, I think that's a you problem. And I think it's also academia's problem. One that actually should probably be held accountable to is just how do you hold large swaths of communities accountable for whatever it is that they're just doing to the industry and society. So I don't know, that's a very big existential question. Anyways, so Marty, I think I'm just going to throw it to you. Ask the first question, please.
Well, I've kind of got one question that's going to turn into 2. I hope that's okay. But yeah. You said agency. So is your plan to expand and hire more people?
Yes, but not. I don't want to be the next Hays. That's not my goal, because yes. I think that's the issue, right? Hays and companies like this are trying to support small, lean businesses, but they're not a small, lean business. They're not created in a way where they have low overheads. They can be creative. They can be flexible with financial options. They can pivot where possible. They don't need to go through layers and layers and layers of leadership teams to be able to make changes, which is what startups need. It's all about adaptability. And I think that's where, when you have a large recruitment agency working with a smaller business, there's just this huge icky mismatch of values and capabilities. So yes, but no.
So how do you communicate that? Because obviously we know that you're on LinkedIn, right? And it seems to be exploding for recruiters like I've never seen before. But so how do you communicate the difference between you working with somebody versus someone like Hays?
On what channel? Because there are lots of channels that I communicate on, Martina.
So what are you using for a start?
Okay, yeah. Mainly, and my favorite method is, of course, in person. But one thing that's been hard, truthfully, for the first 6 months of my recruitment agency, and Jane you all know this as well, is that the actual process of recruiting is really friggin' time heavy. And, you know, I am not naive to believe that it is just me. I only have 2 hands. I'm not Mr. Tickle. I can't just grow additional arms as much as I would love to. I'm not there yet. And so there are only so many frigging conferences I can attend. There are only so many calls I can be on. And that's been really hard because I love meeting people in person, and that's always going to be my favorite method. But it's been difficult to commit to, if I'm honest. So the reason I even started on LinkedIn in the first place as well is because in recruitment agencies, you're taught to cold call, you're taught to cold email, you're taught to send resumes that no one even bloody asked for. And it just felt icky. Sorry.
For those of you that are listening to the podcast rather than actually watching it, I'm doing massive X signs just every time Amber listed something.
And he doesn't mean the X factor.
No, he doesn't. Well, I mean,
I wasn't sure if you were telling me to shut up there with the X signs or what you were signaling at. That's why I was like, sorry, cut.
No, you're good. No, and you know what? I think, but you know that's a knee-jerk reaction to, I guess, like how everybody does sales, because this is like if you carbon copy what you were doing in recruitment, it is practically the same thing that you do in BD, sales, whatever you want to call it, where you're doing the same thing. The product is different. The toilet's the same. So, you know, well, no, the word is same poo, different, the same poo, different toilets. So I guess, like, you know, and no matter what you're trying, which toilet you're going into, it's the same mechanism of action, which is that you're still trying to sell something. And recruitment processes are probably one of the most complex things that you can go into, because they are people, or they can't be because they have no people in there. So I don't know. I mean, I've been both sides of the fence now, and I'll be honest with you. I think that they're just as convoluted as each other, the bigger the organization is, or the smarter the organization is as well. Because I don't know if you noticed, when you work with smart organizations, they have a thing called analysis paralysis. And I don't know why. Is it because they're just full of PhDs? And that the PhDs are very good at being linear in that one thing? I don't know. So, but yeah, it was really interesting that you said that, and that you prefer, I mean, I stopped you midway through because, one, it felt like we had to react to this as well, but also at the same time, it's like, this isn't your, how did you overcome it? Like, I mean, you've got other channels instead of, like, you know, meeting people face to face. It's just one thing that you love, but you can't do it. So what was the next best thing afterwards? Like, was it LinkedIn?
Yeah, and I think I just thought about how, if I was in that position, how I would like to be contacted and marketed to, and that definitely wouldn't be cold calling 5 times until I literally had to break down their door or my boss would sack me. And that's how it began to feel. And I started following other creators, and also in my recruitment efforts, I've always loved placing marketers. Like, we've just always had the best connection, and for so long I didn't know why that was. And I just always felt that marketers in biotech have this, and this almost downplays marketing, but this sense of common sense that others don't have.
I love it. So
I need to get a cup of tea right now. But, and you know, people always ask me, like, what do you think makes a good marketer? And again, I don't want to downplay marketing, because it is one of the most complex market verticals and understated that I know of, but they have just this overriding curiosity and common sense and empathy and emotional intelligence. And I think I learned a lot through recruiting and then following marketers' LinkedIns in biotech and then stealing their techniques for my own recruitment efforts.
I love this. Talk to us more about this. I love this. Don't stop. Talk to us about what made you decide to steal.
So for example, the other day I was looking at my LinkedIn post, and even from like a year ago, I die inside. I cringe to my core. I am speaking to recruiters. My ICP is off. My value is off. I have no unique value proposition. I didn't even know what value proposition meant. And again, that's what I love about how LinkedIn has just completely changed my career and my network and the possibilities that have been out there for me. And it's just enabled me to be a sponge and to learn and to fuck up and to pivot and follow the data and make changes where possible. And yeah, I'm so thankful for LinkedIn. I know it sounds cringe and people are still a bit wary and feel very vulnerable to put their thoughts out there, but I am a LinkedIn friggin' advocate.
Cringe that bad. It's
do.
not that cringe. There's worse to be cringe about.
No,
But let's go back a minute.
exactly.
Let's backtrack a bit. So you learned and worked with marketers and stole their techniques and applied it to yourself. So
Yeah, and
that's
during
it.
COVID as
Yeah.
well, I asked them all for like book recommendations. I just became a sales and marketing
Ooh.
book advocate during the pandemic because we had nothing else to do, right, other than get really fat or become obsessed with Couch to 5K and read loads.
I did
And I
both.
got really fat and
both.
read a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did a little bit of column A and column B. I won't tell you what else happened there. It's not my story, but I think more importantly is you talk about how. So I really want to get into the nugget of that. Like, how did you? Because most people are like, oh, how do I even go about marketing in the first place? Now, if you're a recruiter in biotech, I think you should be copying pasting from sales and marketing folks. It's just simple as that in the space, because they're the people that are most exposed to every other ICP you can think of. And in case anybody is not sure what ICP means, it's ideal customer profile. So and marketers, especially in the B2B world, love talking about ICP. I can't, and people, I'm like, it's just an audience. Stop being so special about it. It's
Yeah.
just a nice little acronym. Your audience is your audience, and unless, of course, you have to be more specific about it. It is what it is. For you though, if people are looking for this blueprint, so how did you go about learning to do marketing and then getting to the place where you are now? Because they're going to look at you and they're going to think, oh, you did it. But how? A plus B does not equal 7. So this
And
is
you know
where.
what the hardest part is? I don't know. And even when I'm like, I have no idea, guys. I have no idea how this all happened. And I didn't even recognize that I would be considered as someone that's even got any value to add in a marketing capacity until people started to validate that by asking me questions. So it all kind of happened just without me even recognizing. And I think everything came my way in regards to marketing just through curiosity. But that's such a faffy, like, hoo-ha answer. But there wasn't an A and B. And when I have interviewed marketers in biotech, again, their paths into marketing are all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
so non-traditional. Like, you don't go to uni and do a PhD in marketing. You can, of course you can, but it's not the only way. And that's what's so frigging cool about it.
And no disrespect to people who did study marketing in university, but that's just not how it works. It's just not how
No.
it works. Go on, Martina.
I was going to say, I mean, the best marketers I know, I mean, I'm going to say something really terrible now, but they don't have a degree in marketing. Because I just think it's a learnt job, isn't it? It's learnt, like
Yeah.
on the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's learned
Jane,
by
maybe don't
doing,
get
it's
this.
learned by failing, it's learned by seeing what works and seeing what doesn't and reacting to feedback and just keeping going and having faith as well, having faith that eventually, being consistent, something will happen, or you'll learn something, or you'll meet someone cool who will teach you something cool.
Do you know what
Yeah.
was the thing that was the slippery slope for you? So there's always something that then triggers the slippery slope into marketing. What was your trigger? Like, what was it? LinkedIn posts? Was it sending emails? Was it creating cool little graphics to go along with it? Was because, like, for instance, like my journey into it started off with recruitment, but then I realized that actually we just do email marketing all the time. We do bulk emails regularly to our people, and then say, oh yeah, we got this new job available, and yada yada yada. And we tried to make it look attractive. We even tried to I even created little collateral to say, like, this is the number of jobs available, and that wasn't an email, so that way people could see it in a different lens, and hopefully they would come back to me. Lo and behold, it did work. So it worked really well. Like, people are like, oh, this is a nice thing, it's quite sexy, can I go for this position please? It's like, I've just given you a new menu and there's a creme brulee in there. Yeah, cool. You never saw the creme brulee before on a little printed out sheet, right? So there must have been something for you, right? Like, what was it? What was the trigger?
It was annoyance, and this is going to sound really, really bad, okay?
Yeah.
And as salespeople, we're always taught, know your value, be confident about your pricing. I was like 24 and clueless, but what I wasn't clueless about was that we were not providing enough value to warrant the money that we were asking for. And
Ouch.
I just thought there's got to be something more that we can do. And I've always been creative, not in the sense of like arty. I can't even draw like a rabbit without it looking like something completely different. But I'm systematic, and I started implementing things like, so for startups, for example, at biotechs, their careers pages on their websites will literally have job descriptions and maybe a sentence, if you're lucky, saying, our goal is to save thousands of patients' lives globally. We spearheaded XYZ, and like just nothing else. And so what I started doing whilst I worked in this agency was creating little websites on Canva. And I would go into their labs, record videos for them. I would sit down with the leadership team, ask them what made them join the company, what's kept them there, what they're excited about over the next 6 months. And we basically create these like mini client hub website, so the candidate, when they interview with me, they know exactly what the lab looks like, what the employees look like, what the persona at that company looks and feels like. They know what's happening during the interview process, who they're going to meet, how they can prepare. It just feels nicer and more mutually beneficial, rather than just the client saying, this is what we need from you, we're not giving you anything in return, which is how it felt when I worked in a large agency.
Does it sound like this is how product marketing should be?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. And do you know what? I need to jump in because I'm learning so much from you, because
Aww.
I mean, as someone who does marketing and a lot of writing for companies, I would never even look at those pages on a website. I wouldn't even think to update those ones. I'd be straight in the technology, the homepage, that I would have just forgotten about. So now you've said that, I'll be thinking about that.
And you know what's insane, right, is that why are careers pages and recruitment marketing such an afterthought? Because yes, we spend all this time on making our tech and our services look really sexy and shiny to investors and to passive candidates, but without the people, we can't make these shiny, sexy services and products. So why do we put so much focus on that when without our people, we are nothing?
It's true. I don't know why.
I know why, and I just it's one of these things. So help me out here, Amber. I think I know this. I know why it's a knee-jerk reaction when it comes to recruitment, because it's airy and fluffy. Once you start putting down a value on a person and how much they're worth outside of the paycheck, they don't know how to quantify it. There's no ROI behind it. That's not as easy as cost per unit, or the scope of work, and then you price it accordingly. There's just no label on it. And marketers have such a hard time putting a number on what the cost of brand is. And 9 times out of 10, we have to pluck numbers out from impressions to what does the ROI mean, when actually there's a very straightforward way of looking at it. And again, it comes down to that recruitment process, right? We're looking at how many if you've got like a high volume, for instance, need for recruitment, and you need to recruit X amount of people within the next year. For starters, how much money are you spending into the advertising of that to then hire the person? And you're looking at the CapEx spend of how much you're spending to secure that candidate. So not only are you spending the money to bring the candidate on board and pay them, it's everything else on top of that to bring them in. Now, the less money you spend and the better your marketing is and everything else is on point from a brand and a company perspective, like what you've just discussed earlier on, where people know up front what they're going to walk into. You could spend £150 to £1,000 on really good, straightforward marketing. That's basically what you said here, showing everybody what it is, and you could be set. And all you have to do is just do small pivots and change. That is the return on investment for bringing people into the business. But we don't think about it because getting people in is such an afterthought, because it's ingrained in our culture to think that people will just naturally come to work for a biotech company. Nowadays, it is not the case whatsoever. You have to think about, is the manager that I'm going to be working for worth working for? Are they're going to respect me? Is this a culture that's going to make me thrive, or I'm going to die? Am I going to feel like I'm overworked? Do they support me? Is the mission statement and the thing I actually care about? All these things that then have already now started to boil in our heads, because dare I say it, the pandemic made us all think that way. We had to start reevaluating ourselves and thinking about what our worth was, because a plague could come and kill us. So, I mean, does that resonate?
100%. And don't you just think that marketing is totally shifted since the pandemic as well? And those that aren't shifting are now, I think, really seeing how that's affecting them.
What's that? So if we were to put words or like, paint a picture to what that shift feels and looks like, what would it be?
Authenticity. People are dying just for some realness and explanation. Like I said, beyond the what, they want the how and the why.
Do you think, and Marty, jump in here as well, but do you feel like it's
I
like
will.
there's yeah, I was gonna say there's not enough
You don't need
why,
to
is
tell
there?
me.
There's not enough why, is there? Like I feel, and this is, I think we can just there's probably a lot of biotech companies that are starting to think about why they put something in there and putting the humanity by the story. I also think it's a little bit too late, but here we are. At least it's better than late than never at the same time.
And you
But
know what's sad? For example, I wanted to do a LinkedIn post next week about biotech startups. And by the way, if you do know any beyond the classics, Steve Harvey, Sophia Genetics, that are doing good recruitment marketing in biotech, please let me know. Because honestly, I started typing it out and I got to company number 2 and I couldn't find any others. I could not find a single biotech startup whose recruitment marketing was, not perfect. We're not looking for perfection. We're startups. We're all trying as hard as we can, but just anything beyond clicking share on an article that already exists, I could find zilch.
I mean, they don't think about that at all, I don't think.
No, they don't.
Okay.
But
That's the last thing. I just don't think they consider that.
If you're listening to
Right,
this,
but
though,
this is a problem because average time to hire in life sciences and biotech startups this year is now at 98 days. It's taking 98
Wow.
days on average.
You know
And this
what?
is for manager and below. I don't mean of course, that's going to
Oh.
be the norm in VP C-suite, but I'm talking entry level up to managerial.
not surprised.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, a bit like marketing, right? Often companies don't invest until things have gone wrong,
Yeah.
unless you get them at an early stage. And I feel like, I mean, Amber, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you feel that there's some synergy here with how that is with recruitment as well?
100%. And companies, they only as well want to work with recruitment agencies once it's like shit hitting the fan time. Oh my God, we need a VP of sales to help us to close this Series B. Let's go. And they haven't thought about what they want this VP of sales to do. They haven't created a job description that's longer than like 200 words. It's a load of crap, and they make desperate decisions and therefore are presented with really low average tenures because they didn't know what they were looking for and picked the wrong thing.
Do you think that there's a level of, I guess, so this is a knee-jerk reaction to most situations, but do you think that this is just because of this knee-jerk reaction, we're reacting to things when fires happen, especially in the startup scenario? Do you think that this is now the culture? It's always going to be this way where they're going to think of not just marketing, but recruitment marketing as an afterthought?
I think so. But as you said, this isn't a snap decision. It's not something that can be done overnight. It's not like sales where you can just, make cold calls and make something happen in 3 days. We don't have a clear ROI as well either to take to leadership. And if you are in a startup strapped for cash, I get it. Recruitment marketing is the last thing on your mind. But then it's all of a sudden the first thing on your mind when you have an opening that's preventing you from completing a project or closing your next funding round. And then you're like, shit, what do I do? My boss hates me. Help me, Amber. And then it's too late.
Yeah. What would you
You
say?
But
see
how
these
do we
jobs-
communicate this, I guess, is
You
another
see these
thing.
jobs on LinkedIn and they're like, you see the number of applicants and it's like 10 million bloody bloody applicants. I'll say it again. And I'm always like, wow, sure, that must be such a pain if you're a company. And I feel like they must do all this LinkedIn like job advertising and realize it's totally wrong because you must get so many generic applications. And then it's like wasting all this time. Yeah, it must be so frustrating for you to know that you could be in there at the start.
But it's often down to the lack of specificity as well from their job descriptions, isn't it? It's just all over the place. It's a mess. And if you could, pay a recruiter even to help with that aspect, that would massively change the quality of your applicants. But this year has just been rough, guys. Like, I wish you could be on my side of the phone sometimes. Like, the amount of, tears that I've even heard this year of people that have been laid off and can't pay their mortgage and are freaking out, and they are amazing humans, but each role in biotech is so niche, number one, and number two, we're all struggling this year, so nothing's being uploaded, and it's just heart-wrenching. It really is.
So
Yeah,
let
that's
me
really sad.
It is, and I think that where there's lots of, I guess, so this is where I get to be, oh yeah, let's be Mr. Positive and spin it around, because there is a silver
Yeah.
lining to all of this, and you know, let's put down some caveats. We all knew that after the pandemic and after this VC boom and lots of like people investing, that suddenly there was going to be things we would pay the price somewhere along the way. And if hindsight is 50-50 and you were able to go back into the past, you now know, or you already knew about this, and you now had the power and the ability and a lot of sway that you now carry you to bring into the past. What would be the things that you would say to, you know, let's say, let's talk about your target market, start at biotechs, and then eventually down the line, the people that are outside of it. What would you say to them in order to prepare themselves for the eventual current situation that we're in right now, where people are just struggling to find either great candidates to put themselves in, or to deal with the overabundance of amazing candidates and future-proof themselves? What would you say?
Email me.
No, great. I like the response, but like, yeah.
I'm joking. No, get started sooner than you think, of course. There are so many free resources as well, and this is something that, again, I used to fight with my old biotech recruitment agency, is that not all biotechs need someone to send them CVs. They just need a bit of guidance. They need to be pointed in the right direction. And when you don't know what you're looking for, it's really hard to know where to start. And now with AI and all of that development, there are so many cool free platforms that you can use to find good candidates, and specific job boards within, you know, I don't know if you're in synthetic biology, there are tons for those. There are specific universities in the US that partner with specific startups. Look into that for internships. Like, there are so many different things, and LinkedIn, I think, can be a really great resource for recruitment tips, and there are tons of groups, etc. But again, it's hard if you don't know where this information even exists.
I feel like you're almost coaching, aren't you?
Yeah.
I am, and that's partly why I wanted to start my own agency too, because like I said, not everyone needs resumes. They just need some guidance.
Do you think that that's changing the way that people are now looking at how they do both marketing and recruitment in the same swath? Because I feel like that conversation's happening now, but it's coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, and Jana, you won't, luckily you're miles away from recruitment agencies now, but there have been so many closures this year. Like, one of the biggest recruitment agencies in our city, for example, who were like the market leader, just miraculously closed down. And I think that's because there are now better options out there, and we are a nice to have, not a need to have. And if people don't recognize that and add more value beyond being able to email a freaking unsolicited resume to John Smith at Illumina, then you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. And I think that really comes back to the same scenario, because you can draw the same parallels with not just recruitment, but with anything. Like, you know, companies and products will shut down because they're not good at communicating the reason why they're good. I was recently having conversations with a friend of mine who kept saying, no, I think I need to tell people why that we're better than other people. I was like, no, you don't. You don't need to create that animosity between other people that work in the same space as you. They can have their space, you can have their space. There's plenty of space to go around, because probably the honest truth is that you probably don't have enough capacity to handle anything else extra. And if you did, then great, fantastic. But, you know, one step at a time. I think the question really should have been more, okay, so why us? Why use us? You know, and like for recruitment agencies, it's always been like we're stuck with that 90s model boiler room of like cold call, hit, smash out a couple of emails, do 3 hours on the phone, hit my usual little KPIs to say that I've actually done it, put a couple of like, you know, have X amount of placements per month and so on and so forth to tick over things. But then there's not really much innovation past that, is there? It's very straightforward. And I think that most companies don't need that anymore. Like, you know, especially nowadays, I look at a phone, and if I don't know who the number is, I'm not picking it up.
Me neither. And you know, like I said, I'm not naive to understand that we're all struggling financially this year, and that's why I start a lot of my discovery calls by saying, you know, this is why we might not be a good fit for you. We don't work with these types of companies. That's the first thing I get off of my chest, because I don't want to waste their time and they don't want to waste mine.
But then, do you feel like by putting the that thing out there, just to say, look, I'm gonna handle the objection straight away and say this might not be for you, that earns more credibility?
Probably. And the response is typically, you know, oh my God, I really appreciate the transparency, because I feel like most recruiters tried to fit their square peg into our very round hole, and it just doesn't feel nice. And I just think being honest about understanding that, you know, it's been hard for everyone this year, and I get that you don't just want resumes, you want more than that. And this is where it wouldn't probably work. And I can even recommend some agencies that would be better than me. I think that transparency just starts off the call and the relationship in a really nice way.
How do you help them beyond that? I mean, you know, I'm naive with recruitment, so I have to apologize.
Yeah.
But how do you help them beyond that recruitment process? Because once they've got someone in place, how do you continue from there on, or is that you done?
No, so a lot of the internal TA and HR teams that are hired often don't come from biotech backgrounds. And it's really hard to recruit if you've never done it before in a really specific domain. And so I come in and actually teach their TA teams on how to use different types of Sales Nav or LinkedIn Premium or LinkedIn Basic. So we do a lot of that. I've written LinkedIn posts for companies as well. Like there's one that I'm doing just 3 posts a week for at the moment. They send me all the info. I do actually the recruitment marketing on LinkedIn for them. There's tons of things, but I'm not going to share all my secrets on here, Martina.
Oh no, don't share all your secrets. No.
Yeah, but yeah, lots of cool things. And I think if you're creative, you can add value beyond the placement. And there are always more placements as well. And we can help with role curation, because all I do all day is get gossip from their competitors. So I know what's working and what's not. So I'm a good knowledge.
Well, so let's translate that. In pharma and biotech world, you would what we would be call a competitive intelligence lead. Somebody who understands and talks to the market very well and knows the ins and outs. The difference between the what you competitive intelligence leads versus what you have is that you have anecdotal access to the database, whereas they have an actual physical database where they have data that's been procured from somewhere proprietary or third party or on the web scraped. So I guess the difference here is that you know your niche now, and I think that there's a big take home here for anybody in recruitment and marketing to learn from each other, because there's some really good osmosis of abilities. But the real way to survive and thrive through difficult and challenging scenarios like this is to actually look and see where you can meld both of them to provide the value. Because what you've done is what I thought about doing and did in previous roles, and thought, oh, you know, this just seems stupid that we're not flexing our full capabilities and knowledge. I have lots of things that I'm sitting on that I don't pass on to somebody else that could benefit from this, and that is also part of the value proposition. And because we're indoctrinated into thinking that all we have to do is sell and make placements, especially if you come from an agency background. If you're from a TA background, all you're doing is just trying to make sure you're filling in things all the time, and if not, you're mitigating the reasons why you can't fill this position, and you're just going XPR, and you don't have the market knowledge. There's no like, oh well, I can't tell you that impressions, the reason why we're not getting lots of people coming in is because, or having applications, is because actually we're not having many people converting to the website at all. They're not converting to apply for the role, and you know, the 8,000, 10,000, 15,000 people that are coming to our website, only 0.1% of them, which is probably 100 people, are coming to the careers site, and they're not converting. If you had marketing and recruitment knowledge, you'd be able to explain that and say, look, we just need to drive more traffic towards we need to drive whatever 100,000 are visiting a website per year. We need to drive a portion of them to our career site to solve some of our recruitment problems and getting people in. That's just the one thing that I'm thinking of. But yeah, going back to what you've done here, you found a way to innovate and use both marketing and recruitment. And this is really something that, quite frankly, I don't see often. And if you do, it's like, one, great, trade secret, keep it to yourself. But secondly, people are missing a trick. They really are.
You know, there's so much value to be added. And I just think recruiters are They need to shape up. As with all industries, there's going to be a big shift recently with everyone. And I think if you don't learn and become a sponge, you are going to be left behind. But it feels particularly prevalent in recruitment. I don't know why that is, but
It's because they recruiters talk to each other a lot, and they also
oh
see
yeah. No, but that's the thing. They don't. It felt like if I spoke to other agencies, I was like shunned, like, don't share your secrets, your top biller, don't go and give them advice. It felt very, very selfish.
Wait, does that sound familiar? That sounds like biotech.
I mean, it definitely
That's what I
sounds like
mean.
marketing agencies.
As well, I think, and there's a common swath here, which is that we're all very protective of the intellectual property that we do have, which is fine. You can protect certain things. There's one thing that you shouldn't protect, is that the ability to give knowledge where it doesn't harm you, to give it out there to progress somebody else, or to progress and better a group of people in general. Because like nowadays, we're now seeing influencer marketing really taking off. People who are giving something that is not difficult for them to give away, because the true value that they know is they've identified their true value. It's not in the advice that you've just given. That's just the stepping stone. The true value is actually, I can help you execute that.
That's basically what Amber's doing for us.
Yeah.
Recruitment influencer.
Right.
Can I just jump in and say, from someone who doesn't know, and I think some of our listeners may not, what's TA?
Oh yeah. Oops. Sorry.
No, don't apologise. I just realised it's been thrown out a few times, and I have no idea what it means.
Talent acquisition. See, that's my naivety. I just assumed that everyone in biotech would know what TA means, but that just shows how irrelevant we are.
I mean, it could be. I thought territorial army, and I was like, it's definitely not that.
Yeah. I dread to think where your mind was going to.
Therapeutic area, maybe. Yeah, something very biotech. Sorry, my Amos is going mad, so he's just adding some flavour to it. But no,
he's like, guys, shut up. You're at 50 minutes now. Get this wrapped up.
Well, it's like, actually, no, we're at 36 minutes because, like, we started late. But no, actually, I was going to say, so now I'm going to take, let's go out. Now, let's be voyeurs, because you've now got you have this very great ability. Like, you now got you're the Venn diagram of, I've got recruitment experience, I've also got marketing experience, I know how to blend the two. Now I can look at a lens of the biotech sector, and then you can start to make inferred assumptions or observations, if you will. So what are the observations that you've seen in the industry about how science is being marketed and accessed? Because this is that was a post that you made about biotech startups and VCs blowing smoke up their wazoo, and it just made me think about people. And then you talked about how if the science isn't solid and it's all smoke and mirrors, then how are you going to pitch this to VCs? So I guess it got me thinking about what's your perception? What do you think? What would you think is the tea of the landscape?
What is tea of the landscape? And again, I need to be careful with what I can and can't say, because I am a gossip sponge and I just have so much info that I definitely cannot share in my brain. But again, with the founder-led startups, there's been a lot of sales and marketing hires that I think have been brought on board to try and fix a product and service that, quite frankly, doesn't work. And if you don't have something that people want, no matter how good your marketers are, even if you have Jane and Martina on the team, good friggin' luck making any sales, because you won't.
Why do you? So we're making all these.
I could add to this, but I won't.
So actually, I'm gonna poke the bear a bit.
Fired from science.
Guys, I'm not from biotech or marketing, so please don't poke too hard.
I'm gonna poke the bear because there's some harsh truths to be told about the things that we think we create in science to benefit. Because there's this thing called there's product alignment fit, so product to market fit. When you're doing the VC market analysis, you're always looking at target addressable market, total addressable market, and then total serviceable market, and then you're looking at your product fit. And there's a lot of assumptions that people make about this product is going to address a whole bunch of a whole bunch of biotech companies or a whole bunch of pharma companies, and then this is how many we can probably take because there's some incumbents in play, and then afterwards, this is what we're actually looking to gun in terms of the forecast. This is how I think our product works. So now, I've been in organizations where they do some extremely good commercial validation, and there's a really good reason why they sell really well. It just, the validation ticks the boxes. And if anything, I find that any good level of commercial validation and good product building leads on to good marketing later on and good sales. That's it, because it always starts off there. I don't think that always happens in biotech. I don't think that happens. I don't think we sit there and spend enough time to ask the critical questions that our customers face on a regular basis, which is, what would help you? What would seriously help you? Would this make your life better, easier? Does it take away the pain? And I think the most important question is, does it take away the pain? So now I'm going to circle back and say, when you start having these conversations with people in different biotech companies, and they put their sales and marketing things, do they ever translate this pain and this like disconnect between their product and do they just kind of blow smoke and mirrors? No, everything's great. It's fantastic. We're going to do we're on to doing our Series B funding already because we've done a really fantastic Series A.
It will totally depend on the founder, right? Some people are very, very open and willing to accepting their mistakes and failures and being honest about that with their recruiters and their team, whereas others I know are completely in the dark. They have no idea that their product that they've just been brought on as CCO or CMO to sell or market doesn't even work. So I guess it depends on the individual. I don't know if that was really your question.
No, I think you answered one part of it, which is that this is the answer that you get. Do you think it's commonplace that there's a lot of product misalignment with the market?
Yeah, they don't test before they actually start creating. They don't see if there's even a market need and whether these people actually want this thing or need this thing, because there's already something that exists. And yeah, you might be able to run the assay in 5 seconds less time, but does anyone actually need that 5 seconds? Probably not. So I don't think there's enough testing and redefining and tweaking before the product actually comes to commercialization.
Martina, I can see that you want to say something.
I'm just dying
Do
here.
it. Let it out, girl.
No, I mean, from personal experience, and this always causes controversy whenever I post about this, about whether all science should be commercialized, whether we should invest into all science, whether we should do science for the sake of just doing it. And I understand there is a level of we need to advance in ways that might not be commercialable. I don't even know if that's a word. I just made it up. But yeah, there does seem to be this kind of, we'll just put it out there and commercialize it because we think, oh, we really like it, without even thinking about whether that's necessary for anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's been a really cool experience. Sorry, Martina.
Oh no,
Sorry.
that was it.
When I get excited, I'm like on and off when I get excited. That's actually why I bought this, to shut myself up. But what I was gonna say was, what's been really cool is, as a type 1 diabetic and the end user, I've actually seen technologies come out whereby I've thought, what the frick is the point in that? Who actually needs that? I've already got something that does that. That's just going to cost me more money, or it's going to be more painful to use, or whatever. I don't need this thing. Like, why has this been commercialized? And then it's no wonder that the companies close down, or they get to 20 employees. And then that's the end, because no one needed that product and they didn't test it enough in the first place.
It's like eyelash curlers, right? How many types do you need? Jeez.
Just the one, dear.
Ones. What's that
Yeah,
about?
exactly.
Do you want to remove your eyelashes by fire? And you know, this is really interesting that you say that, because I think that you know, when it comes to so we talk a lot about getting your science out there. Now there's the evolution of this conversation is actually, you have to get you have to talk about your science to see if it's actually worth its salt, and when they're saying worth its salt, is this something that's worth taking to commercialization, or is it something to validate something that shouldn't happen because you've done something that people should go, don't explore this biology anymore, we're not there yet, or it's not feasible? Because I like, when you're having these conversations, it's something soul destroying about committing your career as all your 10 years worth of your life only to find out that there's been a product misalignment to the market from the very get-go, and you've been committing your science to it. And you could have actually avoided a lot of that pain by having conversations with people a long time ago about the work that you do, that you spent your PhD doing to get to get the thesis out there and saying that this is what I did. And I think that's the sort of take home that I'm getting from it. And from you, Amber, I feel like you're telling there's this, like, sort of moral fables to hear, which is just, a lot of people shouldn't be continuously trying to make products that fail. But also, it's all that sometimes the cookie crumbles that way, because there's some very hopeful therapeutics, and it just turns out that we're not there yet because certain drugs are so toxic for people. We haven't figured out how to mitigate the risk from it yet. There's just that thing. We and from a human biological perspective, that's unavoidable. But from a technology
I guess,
perspective, yeah.
yeah. And knowing when to pivot versus actually doing something about it, and having the courage to, like you said, perhaps give up on something you've been working on for 10 plus years is really friggin' hard, even if the data clearly is right in front of your face and nobody wants your product or service. Actually accepting that and being like, oh my God, I've wasted all this time because I didn't do enough prior research is a different thing. And I think that's why a lot of these startup founders are then going on to hire CCOs and CMOs when they know that they don't need them, because they can't accept to themselves or the world that they made quite a prevalent mistake.
Wow.
Do you feel like that's why it's so important in a company, though, to have a mix of scientists and non-scientists? Because I feel like the non-scientists rein you in because they can step away from the science.
100%.
And
Like,
see the
for
bigger picture.
example, yeah, and I'm coaching a recruiter at the moment. Not coaching, I'm not that important. I'm helping
Yeah, you
a
are.
biotech recruiter who has a PhD in molecular biology, and he's really struggling. And here I am with an accounting and finance degree having a great time. And I think it's because he's too
In the weeds.
into it. He's stuck in the
Yeah.
weeds. He can't escape and kind of zoom out like I can. And I think it's
Yeah.
the same when it comes to building a biotech. You need that differing opinion.
There's something to, and I think because you're blessed to, you don't fit a typical profile for a recruiter, marketer. You are the best and the blend of a lot of people's worlds. You have this very unique and valuable experience, that this is why, we were like, yeah, we have to have Amber on board, because she just has a different take. A take that may not be revolutionary all the time, but is a take that needs to be heard, because it might be just the slap in the face that you need to wake you up and say, listen, enough's enough. Or maybe, listen, you guys need to pay attention. So, and this is the thing that I guess I mean, there was a couple of things already that I was like, yeah, Amber's bang on the money with this. But at the same time, there's always something about when you have scientists and you're talking to them and they dive so far. Every scientist is an Alice drifting through Wonderland, and we are the White Rabbit telling them to get out and stop it, and think about the bigger implications. And then there's two sides of it as well, because there's the what do you call it, the ruminating scientist that constantly fears about the things that happen, and they just experiment, even for confirmation or non-confirmational bias. And then there's the other scientist that's more pragmatic, and I find those breeds quite rare to find. They often make really good CEOs. So I've encountered them, and they're like, wow.
Not that we know any.
Yeah. I don't know any pragmatic CEOs that are PhDs. Right. Yeah, Steve, if you're hearing this, your ears are burning, aren't they? So.
But now as well, more and more hiring managers are wanting marketers and salespeople with PhDs, and that's all they want. And it's just getting worse. And I know. And it's all the friggin' startups. It's all the like Stanford, Yale founder-led biotechs, and they're like, oh, we need our, account executives to have PhDs in molecular oncology. And I'm just like, come on.
Wow.
I can see, I have spoken to some startups who have non-PhDs, and where the gap comes is when it comes to science writing, because they don't want to employ a separate science writer. So they want someone internally. But the problem is with that is you don't have time to do all that. You do actually need one that does one. And like your general marketer in a biotech startup, you definitely need that.
What is it with biotechs and thinking that marketers can do everything?
I mean, what is it with
Like
everybody?
one marketer. Yeah,
What is it?
Yeah, I
it's
think
not
that
just
is
a biotech.
Yeah, it's
problem, I
not.
guess.
It's a very big. It's a you know, oh, marketing is everything, so we put it into that bucket. And actually, no, it's not the case at all. You could see that you need a marketer to drive demand every day, day in and day out. What are the activities I could do to get more people to ask us for business? On the same side, you've got another marketer that just purely focuses on how do I tell the story to 50,000 people in one big swath. How do I then manage? And then you need another marketer to talk about how do I get them to talk. How do I help my CEO and the financing and the board talk to each other succinctly and present themselves really well? Then there's another person to handle the brand and so on and so forth. I don't think scientists understand the complexities of it until they realize that it's a different science for each particular vertical. And maybe it's just an easier thing to do. Go, okay, well, I'm not going to bother thinking about it. It just goes under one bucket. It's like, oh yeah, PhDs can do everything, right?
No, especially if they've just come from PhD and not done anything else. Let me just throw that out there.
Amber, one last thing then to close this off. If there was a thing that you could say to people listening to this podcast that's helped you, what would it be?
In regards to marketing or
Just
life or food choices, cheese.
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Cheese?
Let's talk marketing. If you were to give them a bit of marketing advice that's helped them, help you, sorry, what would you tell them?
If you try to be everything to everyone, you'll be nothing. Wait, that's the worst quote ever. Rewind.
I thought that was pretty good, to be fair.
I got it.
I was trying to communicate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. Find your niche. Work
Find
on
a niche, stick to it. And even if it feels too niche, that's probably quite a good thing, because speaking to one singular person is better than speaking to everyone, because then you speak to no one. And that's the problem that I used to have, for sure.
Yeah. Like you could make more impact by speaking to a few people.
Yeah, I have on my wall, I wish I could turn my camera around for you guys. I've got a woman on this side and a man on this side, and it's like an image that I've made, like I've drawn, and then I've put on a computer system, and around it says like what they like to do, where they typically hang out, like what their issues are, just as a reminder, like a visual reminder of exactly who I'm speaking to whenever I'm doing anything for Moxee.
Such a good idea.
That is. I think anybody that's
Persona, basically.
It is, yeah.
I'm gonna have to send you photos of them after, because they're quite there's some profanity on there that's quite funny.
Oh yeah. Oh, I would love to see that. Although, mind you, have to censor it for some of the people that don't necessarily like the profanity. But
no, I mean direct to your DMs. I would never. Yeah.
Well, you know, if you want to give me ammunition to start writing a LinkedIn post, then sure, let me know. I always like writing marketing stuff based on anecdotal experience. I think it hits home harder. So, Amber, it's been fantastic having you on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Love it.
Where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Chilling in my garden on my own with my cats, or on LinkedIn.
Right.
It's probably the best spot.
And how do they find Moxee?
www.moxee-search.com, or on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place.
Fantastic then. Thank you everybody for joining. My name is Jane.
I'm Martina.
And you've been listening to Market Your Science. Have yourself a fantastic time wherever you are listening to this. Take care. See you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. And if you liked our content, then please hit subscribe and like our Spotify and LinkedIn pages. If you want more helpful life sciences marketing tips, then follow me and Martina on LinkedIn. Don't hesitate to DM us with your questions.